What's up guys, and welcome back to Gabe Miller Music. Today I'm going to be doing a sort of tutorial, sort of demonstration on how to make your first ever beat on the Korg Electribe 2, the synth version. This is a viewer requested video. I've gotten quite a few requests for this one, so I figured I would go ahead and give it a go. I'm going to try as best I can to break down exactly what the steps are to making a beat from scratch on the Electribe, and as a result, how to work your way around this thing, because I am aware that it's a bit of an uphill battle, especially if you're newer to the hardware Groovebox game. Learning this thing definitely was a bit of a challenge for me, and I've been making electronic music for a long time before that, so hopefully I can demystify some of that and show some tricks to make using it easier. So first of all, what I've just done here is navigated to an initial pattern. I got this one secondhand, and so a bunch of these patterns are already filled up, and this one is just 4 on the floor kick. Not much going on here. So the first thing I'm going to do before I do anything else is I'm going to hit right. You choose the slot that you want to save your session to, and then hit right again to confirm it. So now, nice boring dance track. So the first thing I want to do is set my tempo, and I want to speed this up from 120 to 128. Just super basic dance track. I'm definitely not trying to win any awards for creativity with the beat that I'm about to make. This is mostly for demonstration purposes. So I'm sure there's an even easier way to do this, but this is pretty easy. So if you hold down Shift and then hit one of the pads, it gives you access to this menu, and this will let you go through a bunch of different kind of global parameters related to your song. So I'll get back to this. I'll keep coming back to this, in fact, because there's a bunch of stuff that's really useful, both for song stuff and for patch editing stuff. So what I want right now is BPM. So I turn this knob, and you might find it helpful to label this knob, because there are certain times when you really don't want to turn it because it changes between sessions, but other times that when you're in this window, you do want to turn it because that's what controls the parameter. So now that I've got this up to 128 beats per minute, I'm going to exit that, and actually I need to get back into this, so hit Shift again. So right now I'm just on one little 1-bar loop, and I can go up to a 4-bar loop. But in this case, I just want to start off with a 2-bar loop. So exit that. So now you can see which one you're on, which is pretty nice. So let's say up next I want to change the kick. And notice that because I started off with a 1-bar loop, when I changed it to a 2-bar loop, it just copied that pattern over, which is quite nice. So now what I want to do, I'm going to change this kick out. So oscillator controls both your wavetable and your sample. So they've got a bunch of stuff built in, bunch of stuff to choose from. So I like that one for now. Let's stick with it. And what I can also do, if I don't like how long it rings out, I can engage the amp right here. Control the decay and release. So either it rings out, or it is a little shorter, which in this case is what I want. And you can hear that change has been implemented. I can also affect the pitch. I'm going to leave that where it was. Do the same thing to change with the snare. I love this snare sample. It's very good. Change the volume of this because it's a bit loud. And here's the first way that you can actually enter in note data. So I'm going to hit record, and then you can either start the recording playing right when you hit a pad, or you can hit play. And that's now recorded in, and notice it automatically quantizes it to the beat. As far as I know, there's no way to get around that, so grid-based music for the Electribe. And let's say I want to add another note or change what's going on with the note. So I've been in trigger mode this whole time, which just queues up sounds. Let's say I want to edit something in here manually, or let's say I messed something up. So let's actually just mess something up on purpose. So that snare there, I don't want. So I'm going to go to Sequencer, and now you can see a grid view in each bar of your pattern, and a lit up pad means that there's a note there. So this is our offending note, and I'll let you see that. You can see it triggers this, so I just hit this to make it go away. Same if I want to add something, like So that's the sequencer for drums. Also, you can go into keyboard, and let me demonstrate this with a better sound. If I go into keyboard, it pitches the sample around. So you can do some kind of cool patterns like that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's turn that down a bit. And I think this would sound cool with like a phaser of some sort. So let's start playing around with our effects. So this turns your effect on, and you've got a bunch of insert effects to choose from. That's what IFX stands for. So especially good ones are the distortion, bit crusher. That's kind of cool by itself. I'll come back to that. Ring mod, some EQ stuff, exciter. There's a pumping one in here, which is like your substitute for sidechain, and it just does a floor on the floor pumping effect. Some delays in here that are kind of decent, but what do I want? I want a flanger or a phaser. Something like that. And you can control how extreme the effect is. And right now, while I'm thinking about it, let's hit right, and it's already in the slot that I want it. So hit right again to save that. And make sure you do this early, and make sure you do this often, because turning this knob while your screen looks like this will immediately get out of your session and into a different one and not save any of your work. So just hit right whenever you get to something that you're happy with, so that in case you accidentally turn this knob, you don't really lose much. I've had it happen. It's heartbreaking. It's annoying. So don't let that happen to you. Let's move on to synths. Actually, real quick, let's talk about part mute. So let's say I want to start off with just a kick and snare and no hats yet. So you go to the part mute window. Think about this like tabs in your internet browser or different windows in a piece of software. And so this is the mute window. You know, you've got your trigger window, you've got your sequencer window, all that kind of stuff. So I can mute and unmute elements. This doesn't have anything going on it. So I've got the hi-hats muted. And that just does it exactly when you press it. This is a super useful tool, not only for building up kind of different sections of a song, but for doing live jamming. And I did an entire video on that I'll link at the end of this video, but I'll get back to that. For now, you can also do part erase. So let me go ahead and record in a garbage part, because sometimes you do a take and the whole thing is just unsalvageable. And there is nothing redeeming about it, and you don't want to go into the sequencer and manually change every note. You want to just nuke the whole thing, start over. So let me just do something obnoxious. Notice how it quantized it. That actually sounds kind of cool now that it quantized it, but that is neither here nor there. So remember, it's this pad, so I go to the part erase window, hit play, and just hold this down for the parts that I want to erase. So once I'm sure that I've gone through the whole cycle, and now it's erased all the notes that were transpiring while I held this down. So let's start adding some synths. And all of these are synth slots. So let me go into the keyboard. And I can go to oscillator, and actually while I'm thinking about it, let's write this thing. And we've got a ton of oscillators to choose from. Some of these oscillators, I've been told, are actually just generated analog by the device itself. To my understanding, pretty much everything is wavetables, but you've got a ton of oscillators to work with, a bunch of your classic kind of sounds, and then some kind of more out there stuff as well. I love this one. And you can edit the parameters of this wavetable. Which is super useful. This is one of my favorite wavetables. Okay, so I've got a part that I like that I want to go ahead and record in, but before I do that, I want to edit something about the synth. So let's hit Shift again and just tab through this until I find what I'm looking for. And also, in here you can also set like your scale, the key that you're in, which is super useful. But what I want is voice assign. So right now, this is on polyphony, So you can hit multiple notes at once, which is great for chords, not so great for bass lines. So I want to change what it's on. So now I can set this to mono. So I can do that. So let's go ahead and record that. Make sure I hit stop to have it go to the beginning. Go ahead and write that. So that's my bass line. And I can keep building on this by going back to trigger, choosing the next sound slot, and doing this all over again. So you've got a unison saw. Let's talk about the filter, because I haven't gotten to that yet. Let's say I want to make a pluck. This works very similarly to any other subtractive synth out there. So you've got your resonance. This is your cutoff. And then to control the cutoff movement, you've got this envelope. So here, it's doing nothing. No movement whatsoever. This way, start to get that pluck sound. If you go the other way, the movement goes in the opposite direction. But right now I want to create a pluck. Crank the resonance, and then I can set this up to have some decay so it rings out a bit. I can go to keyboard. Also, one thing I should mention, if you want to go up or down octaves while in the keyboard window, this is what gets you there. Had a little bit of a glitch there, but I just changed sessions and changed back, and now it's all good. Real quick, let's talk about the master effects. This is our little chaos pad with some stamp from something that was here from the previous owner. Right now I have the set to the delay, which is the default. It's a lot of fun, although it's much more useful if you assign this to, say, a filter, and that can be really useful for arrangement purposes. And I cover that in my video dedicated to arranging. So those are the most basic parts of making a beat on the Electribe. If you've never done it before, hopefully this gives you a good primer on how this thing works and how to make it make sounds and record them. If you'd like to learn how to make this thing make whole entire songs, you can click or tap up over here. I did a whole video dedicated to that. And if you'd like to see videos where I make beats from scratch on the Electribe in various genres, you can click or tap down over here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back with a new video in a little while. Peace!